So when fear starts to creep in my mind, I can center myself on the promise that Jesus gave me. This is happening for a reason. There is purpose in your pain. And you can have faith over fear because I am with you. When Jesus is in the storm, there is hope in the storm.
If you would like weekly content that builds your faith and helps you walk out all that God has for your life, subscribe and be a part of Life Family.
I'm excited today to continue our series on The Chosen, combining film and faith, and this amazing portrayal of the Bible. And just watching these things have helped me love Jesus more. I think tonight it actually debuts on the CW network, so tell your friends and family and they can start tonight watching this. And today I'm excited to be team preaching with Jill Welborn. She and her husband Derek are our downtown campus pastors. I want to say hello to all of you, keeping it weird down there in downtown Austin. I love you all so much. Let's jump into The Chosen right now with one of Jesus' most famous miracles, the feeding of the 5,000. Watch this.
Surely there's some food from someone, even a small amount.
5 loaves of bread and 2 fish. But what is this for so many?
Barley loaves.
2 fish and 5 barley loaves. Thank you for clarifying.
This is humiliating. John, he will take care of it if he wants to. You look scared. What are you afraid of? I'm afraid that he'll choose them.
This is wonderful bread, Telemachus.
I know it's not enough.
Oh, it's enough for me. I can do a lot with this. Thank you. Blessed are you, Lord our God, King of the universe, who brings forth bread from the earth.
Did they find some bread?
Feed them.
What has changed?
Are we organize the people into groups of 50 and 100? Gather up 12 baskets to distribute the loaves and fish. Was I unclear?
No.
Does anyone have a basket? Please borrow a basket. Anyone? Oh, you? Please.
Come on.
Yes, that's important. Yes, over here.
Feed them.
Anyone?
Yes.
Anyone have a basket? Anyone?
The kingdom of heaven is like a grain of mustard seed that a man took and sowed in his field.
Anyone have a basket?
It is the smallest of all seeds. But when it has grown, it is larger than all the garden plants. It becomes a tree, so that the birds of the air can come and make their nests in its branches.
I've got one. Let's just
Come on, break up the bread.
Okay, how many do we have?
How this is going to work.
There, you take some. There.
Work the tracks.
Just need some.
Give me some of that. Split. You have enough? Just like that.
Yeah. There.
Anyone need some?
It's better than the tail. That's the last of it. Yeah, that's the last of it. All right, Marcus, you can have your basket back.
Basket, look! Is your basket full?
You see this? You see all this?
I've kept you here all this time giving you spiritual food. But you clearly need actual food now. So let's eat.
I love that. Let's eat. This is found in Matthew 14, what you just saw. As evening approached, the disciples came to him and said, "This is a remote place, and it's already getting late. Send the crowds away so they can go to the village and buy themselves some food." And Jesus replied, "They do not need to go away. You give them something to eat." We have only 5 loaves of bread, Wonder Bread, and 2 fish. And they answered, "Bring them here to me," he said, and he directed the people to sit down on the grass. Taking the 5 loaves and 2 fish and looking up into heaven, he gave thanks and broke the loaves. Then he gave them to the disciples, and the disciples gave them to the people. They all ate and were satisfied. And the disciples picked up 12 basketfuls of broken pieces that were left over. And the number of those who ate was about 5,000 men, besides women and children. Theologians say that he probably fed over 15,000 people that day. So you think about the Moody Center in downtown Austin, the basketball arena, packed that thing out and the floor. And that's how many people Jesus fed on this particular day. Besides the resurrection, the feeding of the 5,000 or 15,000 is the only miracle that appears in all 4 Gospels. In fact, Jesus feeds multitudes twice, one in our reading today and then another in Mark 8, where he feeds 4,000 people. Why did he do that? Well, he was fulfilling a messianic prophecy that Messiah would come and do miracles and feed people. And so Jesus was saying, "I am the Messiah." But he had another purpose, and that's what lands on me and you today. And that is he's teaching his disciples and followers how to have faith. The big idea that Jesus is showing all of us is faith over fear. But it's that fine line in between where my mind gets conflicted and my heart gets conflicted in the face of circumstances. So let's just go back to faith. What is faith? Because we know we need to have it. And you can see how incredulous they were, these disciples, seeing this in real time, that Jesus is going to do that with so little. The odds are so against him, and it just doesn't seem likely with human eyes. So faith, what is it? Well, some believe faith is blind optimism. We say things like, "I believe things are going to work out. I have faith." I was, with my undergrad, I was in a play called Oklahoma. Anybody remember that play, Oklahoma? Yeah, the title song is, "Oh, what a beautiful morning. Oh, what a beautiful day. I have a wonderful, everything's going my way." And that's what people think sometimes. I just have a wonderful feeling everything's going my way. But the problem with calling that faith is tomorrow you feel differently. And circumstances can change where you don't feel like everything's going my way. So blind optimism really isn't faith. It's just an optimist's heart. Some say faith is a positive confession, that whatever the mind can conceive, it can achieve. So you see it, you say it, and you claim it. And, that's messy. And I believe in a positive confession, but what's problematic with both of these definitions of faith is faith becomes the object of itself. It's faith in faith. So maybe the better defining question is not what is faith, but who is the object of your faith? Fear and faith are in opposition. They cannot coexist. One will be dominant while the other is subservient. Faith is only as good as its object. Apparently, faith is also quantifiable. Jesus commended people who had great faith, and he chided people who had little faith. So apparently, you can measure faith. In Mark 11 and 22, Jesus is talking about mustard seed sized faith when he says, have faith in God. And I tell you the truth, you can say to this mountain, so I know exactly where he was, right there in Israel. When he was looking at that mountain, I've seen that mountain. It's intimidating. It blocks the horizon. He said, you can say to that mountain, may you be lifted up and thrown into the sea, and it will happen, but you must really believe it will happen and have no doubt in your heart. So what Jesus is saying is faith is not something that you go, I need more faith, I can have more faith, I need, it's not faith in faith. Who is the object of your faith? So the object of my faith, if I have faith, is God, you can do anything. And so faith is really this: do I believe Jesus has the power to come through for me against these circumstances? And that's the fine line between faith and fear. Do I believe it, or do I not believe he has the power? So I choose faith over fear. Now, Jesus is building faith in his disciples, his followers, as he is building faith in you today from this story. It's how to see Jesus greater than the insurmountable odds that are coming against you. Jesus, you are the object of my faith when life seems so overwhelming. Now, Simon and the disciples are going to need that, because right after Jesus feeds 15,000 people, they say, well, what do we do next? And Jesus' instruction to them is get in that boat, and I want you to row to the other side of the Sea of Galilee. And he says this, I will meet you there. And that's a promise. If you just saw him feed 15,000, if he says, I will meet you there, I believe he's going to meet me there. And yet, circumstances can arise where you completely forget everything he told you. Watch this.
We can't take much more water! We'll founder! Better off wet and cold on land than drowned and dead out here! John, keep rowing! What are you doing? Did anybody just see that? Over there! I don't see anything! What are we looking for? Go! It's a go! Go! Let's go! It can't be. We have to get out of here! Everyone move! Go! Faster! Let's go! Nobody move! Simon, what? I said everybody stop! Stop! Okay, stop! Nobody move! That's not a ghost! Are you crazy? Don't be afraid! It's me! Jesus?
This surprises you? Did you learn nothing from today?
If it is you, command me to come to you on the water.
Simon, no! Are you out of your mind?
If you are who you say you are, bid me to step out of this boat.
You have the faith to walk on this water?
Absolutely. You can do whatever you command. And if you command the water to hold me, I will walk on it.
If I call you to me, you will step out in faith?
Yes!
Then why are you upset?
Why are you chasing after Gentiles when your own people have problems right here? When your own person has problems? I've been right here in front of you, believing in you, but you're breaking up fights in the Decapolis?
Then come to me, you weary and heavy laden. I will give you rest.
Just a little intensity for your Sunday morning. I am so honored to be with you today. It is simply a pleasure, and I'm just so thankful, Pastor Randy and Denise, that you believe in me in so many ways, and thank you for this opportunity to share with you today. Having faith in God and trusting that He can do the miraculous doesn't mean that we won't have storms in life. You can feel the tension building in Simon Peter's life. In the first clip today, you see that he gave part in handing out this miracle bread to the 5,000. Yet he was still experiencing loss and frustration. And now they're surrounded by a storm and fearing for their lives. But the truth that Jesus wants you to know today is faith over fear. I find myself resonating with Simon Peter's story. My husband Derek and I have given our lives to the ministry as we're those professional Christians that Pastor John referenced last week. But just being near to Jesus and his work doesn't mean that storms bypass us. Derek and I have two beautiful girls. Their names are James and Gray. And motherhood has been the light of my life and simultaneously being one of the hardest things that I've ever done. Any parents in the room that can relate? We know there's that tension there. It's revealed some beautiful things in my heart and some ugly things as well. And it started at their births. Both came with some post-delivery complications that God had to carry me through, but especially after the birth of my second daughter, Gray, who we have been praying for 3 years. It was a rather quick and uncomplicated delivery. Literally, I was laughing and they were saying, you have to stop, you're gonna have this baby. But they realized after I was starting to lose my vision that something was wrong. And it turns out I was losing a life-threatening amount of blood that required an emergency surgery and a blood transfusion to stop. So they immediately handed my minutes-old newborn over to my husband, and they wheeled me to the OR. And there was this team of doctors and nurses that were around me, rolling me rather quickly through the white fluorescent lights of that hallway. And I remember feeling this terror and panic fill my heart, and tears started to roll down my face. And I was consumed by a fear that felt like I was sinking. And whether it was reality or not, every time I get to this part, it's kind of hard. I remember fighting so hard. Even though my body felt like it couldn't move, I was in my mind fighting to get back to that baby and to my family. And in the middle of all that chaos and the hurriedness, I knew I got this voice and this word that I knew was from God. It said, this is happening for a reason, and it's to figure out what's really going on. And instantly, I was surrounded by a supernatural peace that I can't really explain. And I knew I was going to put my faith in God, and He was going to carry me through that surgery. And obviously, I'm here today, and He did, and I am grateful for that. But even with that promise, there were still storms that arose in my life. 2 days later, I ended up back in that same hospital with another illness, eclampsia, that was unrelated to the first, and no one could really tell me why these things were happening. And because I went right back into the hospital, there was a cemented fear in my heart that the other shoe's going to drop eventually. Even though I had just experienced my own personal miracle and God was carrying me through, I struggled for really the next 6 months or so with the fear of death. But God used those health issues in my life to reveal what was really going on. And what was really going on was a matter of my heart. I was full of fear. And it was manifesting in the fear of death, but it was so much more. Fear of what other people thought. Fear that I wasn't a good enough mom. Fear of rejection, fear of failure, you name it. And as I peeled back the layers on those experiences through mentorship, counseling, and much prayer, I realized that what I wanted was ultimate control. And I wanted God to fix the circumstances around me more than I wanted his presence in those moments. I wanted to call the shots rather than trusting God with my future. Because of that storm in my life, I'm happy to say that even though I'm still type A, I can live with gratitude for the experience, quite literally for breath in my lungs that we have a new day today, because he's given me a new perspective, and he's given me the gift of him in the storm. So when fear starts to creep in my mind, I can center myself on the promise that Jesus gave me. This is happening for a reason. There is purpose in your pain. And you can have faith over fear because I am with you. When Jesus is in the storm, there is hope in the storm. Had he not allowed those situations in my life, I would have been spiritually suffocated by the fear and need to control. Do I believe that he could have stopped those things from happening? Absolutely, he's God. But I know he used those things in my life to create in me a new heart. So I don't know what your storms may look like. Maybe your finances might feel rocky and uneasy. Maybe you're drowning in the sorrow of a broken relationship. Maybe you're drenched by the loss of infertility. Or maybe you're drowning in a sea of anxiety. And I want to remind you that you are not alone. We even see the disciples in this clip. They were the nearest to God, but they still wrestled with fear. In Matthew 14, verses 26 and 27, it says, "When the disciples saw him walking on the lake, they were terrified. 'It's a ghost,' they said, and they cried out in fear." They had just been a part of a miracle, literally handing out that miracle bread, yet they still feared. Verse 27 says, "But Jesus immediately said to them, 'Take courage, it is I, don't be afraid.'" In this storm, in this pain, in this moment of disappointment, it is Jesus that you need. Don't be afraid. What you need isn't inside or outside the boat. It isn't in the circumstance. What you need is Jesus. And as we saw in the clip, Simon Peter wasn't spared from the elements. He was wet, cold, frustrated, and scared. Yet he had the faith. He had the faith that Jesus could do anything if he just trusted what he said. So let's watch and see what happens next.
Simon, no. Simon. Don't be foolish, Simon. Simon. Wait. Simon. No, Simon. What are you doing? Simon, where are you going? What are you doing, Simon? Stop. Simon. What are you doing? Simon. Do you still have faith? Faith hasn't been my problem. I gave up everything to follow you. But you're healing total strangers. Why do you think I allowed trials? I don't know! They prove the genuineness of your faith. They strengthen you. This is strengthening you. Keep your eyes on me. sinking! Lord, send me! I'm sinking! Help me, please!
Don't let me go. Don't let me go.
I got you. I got you.
Don't let me go.
I got you.
Please.
Oh, you have little faith. Why did you doubt?
Don't let me go.
I have much planned for you, Simon, including hard things. Just keep your eyes on me. I promise. Come on, help him. Help. Please. Please. Don't let me go, please. I'm sorry. Please. Don't let me go, please. I'm sorry. Please don't let me. Peace! Be still!
Oh, man. I know some of your stories. I don't know all of you who are watching, and I don't know everyone in all of our campuses, but I know some of your stories. And I know that scene resonated with you, how you wish that the Lord would take you by the hand. I've watched that clip I don't know how many times. Faith over fear. And the fine line between the two. And I have found myself moving from one to the other depending on what I put my attention on. The fine line between faith and fear is, do I believe Jesus has the power to come through for me in spite of the circumstances? How to get through what you're going through. That scene touches me. I see so many things differently in it every time I watch it. But I think the one thing that still moves my heart is when Simon goes underneath the water. Jill said it just a moment ago. I felt like I was going under. You ever feel like you're going under? And the Lord, the chosen imagines Jesus putting his hand through the water, and for some reason that touches me. My mother, I miss her, used to play the Hammond B3 organ. She'd sing this, "Precious Lord, take my hand, lead me on, let me stand. I'm tired, I'm weak, I'm worn. Through the storm, through the night, lead me on to the light. Take my hand, precious Lord, and lead me on." Hebrews talks about fixing your eyes on Jesus, making him the object, and when you do that, it's the perfecting of your faith. It drives fear to the corners or completely out of your life. The object of my faith is Jesus. Reach down in the water, Lord, and take me by the hand. You know what we all need? A faith lift. Life gets overwhelming sometimes. I just need to keep my eyes on Him.
Thank you so much for being a part of our service today. And we hope and pray that this message touched your heart. And we want to hear from you. We want to get to know you. There are several links below this video that you can connect and let us know what's going on in your life. So we would love to invite you to do that. But most importantly, if you made a decision to follow Jesus today, that is amazing, and we want to celebrate you. I invite you to text Next Steps to 22999. We'll respond with a text and give you some resources and next steps for your faith journey. So we just celebrate you and want to invite you to do that. Thank you so much for making this decision to follow Jesus. It's amazing. So thank you again for being a part of our service today. We will see you next time.
If you don't have a home church, we would love to invite you to be part of Life Family. Remember, you belong here. Join us again next Sunday or anytime throughout the week. Hit that bell so you never miss when we post a new video. Hope to see you again soon.